I want to show you how to make fantasy maps on the computer. It's a super fun way to make your own maps, and it can be easier than drawing them by hand. Now I'm going to be showing you a sped up time-lapse recording of a map that I made for my latest zine called The Frozen Ascent. This is going to be just a simple region map where the adventure takes place, 6 locations total. And because this map is for a zine, I know exactly what size my file should be to start with. It's a letter size zine, so the canvas is going to be 11 by 8.5 inches, then divided in half, so each page is like 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And I like to work at 300 DPI. I'd say that's kind of the minimum resolution that you want if you are going to be printing things. Now I'm drawing this map on the computer using Adobe Photoshop. I honestly don't recommend Adobe at this point. I'm just locked into it because I've been using all of their programs every day for so long. If you're just starting, check out Clip Studio Paint or the Affinity programs, or you can even get the program GIMP for free. I'll have all those linked in the description. I'm also using a Wacom Cintiq to draw this. It's just like a monitor that you can draw right on. But as you'll see, the drawing I'm doing isn't anything crazy. You can absolutely draw a map like this with a mouse, or maybe if you're really good with it, a trackpad. An iPad with Procreate is another great option. I know a lot of professional illustrators that do everything on their iPads. My wife uses it to illustrate all of her Band of Weirdos products. If you got an iPad, definitely check out Procreate. All of the steps I'm doing in Photoshop, easily translatable to Procreate. So let's get into my process here. As you can see, I'm drawing just a black and white sketch, just planning out the layout of the map. I'm not worrying about the line quality of things or trying to make it too neat. I'm just drawing with a regular round brush and an eraser on a single layer. And every once in a while, I'll use the lasso tool to select a part of the map and then hit Control T to transform it. You know, you can rescale it and move stuff around. And even though I'm drawing this map 100% on the computer, I'm still approaching it like I would draw a hand-drawn map. This rough black and white sketch is just like doing a pencil sketch. I'm erasing and changing stuff to get the layout and icons looking just right. Once the sketch is done, I reduce the layer transparency so it's just a very light gray, like a little guide that I can turn on and off by showing and hiding the layer. Then I use the type tool to create the location labels. This Frozen Ascent adventure is for Shadow Dark, so I'm using some of the same fonts as in the core rulebook. I think this one is called Old Newspaper Type. Doing the labels digitally is really easy. Just type out the word, slap it under the icon, and it's easy to move stuff around with the move tool. This is one of those spots where the digital aspect of the process is just so much easier than hand drawing all the little labels. Once those are all lined up in an order, now comes the fun part, finalizing this map. So for this zine, I used a set of brushes from True Grit Texture Supply called RizCraft. It's a collection of brushes and textures that mimic the look of risograph printing. The basic idea is that everything is printed in different transparent values of one color. In this case, because this is an adventure all about this mountain freezing over, I went with this frosty blue color. So the whole time I'm only using this one solid blue color, and I have the brush panel open so I can switch between 30, 50, 70, and 90% transparencies. Basically, they're just texture brushes that create lighter and darker tones of that single solid blue color. So I'm just picking what percentages I think each little part of each icon is going to be, and then I'm trying to keep each of those values on their own layer, but sometimes they get mixed up. I'm not the best at keeping a clean layer set up. I just try to keep it simple so it doesn't get too overwhelming. Anyway, you can tell that the drawing is really simple. Again, you could absolutely make a map like this with a mouse. It's just little triangles and lines and some filled in areas. I think the risograph texture adds a lot to the feel of this map, but you don't need to have any fancy brush packs to make a cool looking map. You can use make a map with more colors, or even grab one of the pre-installed texture brushes and just do a black and white drawing. The fun thing about drawing digitally is that you can try out all kinds of different options, and it's easy to make changes and redo decisions on the fly. And if you group individual elements on their own layers, it's super simple to move things around and change the scale and even flip things. You can even draw just a single tree and then copy it over and over again to make an entire forest. I personally like to draw each icon individually so the map looks more hand-drawn, but if you need to save some time, duplicating icons is what makes drawing digital maps really, really helpful. Now, I know this isn't a full-blown tutorial with every little step shown, but hopefully you can see that even though I'm using Photoshop, a notoriously complicated piece of software, I'm actually keeping things pretty simple. I'm not using all the features available, just a few of the tools, a few of the features. That's it. It's just the brush tool with a few of these different brush presets. I change the size of the brush depending on what I'm drawing with the bracket keys on the keyboard. The eraser tool is just a standard round brush. Again, bracket keys to make that bigger or smaller. And I use the lasso tool to make selections and then move parts of the drawing around when I need to change things. The type tool for the labels is really simple. It adds each label to its own new layer, so each label can be moved around individually. I put all of the label layers into a little folder in the layer panels. I'm doing my best to keep each element on its own layer. That's kind of the main premise of drawing in Photoshop, is that having these different layers that you can manipulate and change around without affecting the other layers in your illustration file. My hope is that seeing this process unfold will get you excited to try and make your own digital maps. I really, really, really want to stress that it is not about these fancy tools or what program you use or what brush presets you're using. I actually think the fun of working digitally is really about limiting the tools and trying to kind of figure out the puzzle of the illustration, like deciding to make a map out of a single color and using more shapes instead of lines, and trying out this risograph brush pack that I got. As you can see, it doesn't have to be super complicated to make a cool looking illustration, a cool looking map. Let me know if you have any specific questions down in the comments. I'll do my best to reply and help figure things out. All the tools and stuff that I mentioned in this video are linked in the description, so you can check all that stuff out there. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon, where I release this entire Frozen Ascent Shadow Dark adventure in this kind of art style, kind of a departure from my regular art style that I'm super proud of, this little experiment. Or you can check out my online shop, where I have tons of fun guidebooks about drawing maps and tabletop role-playing games and even more system-neutral adventures. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!